in Abruzzo e in Calabria. L'autore è Philip Kwok, un professore cinese storico erudito che è vissuto a Napoli.
Ciao once again, Splendidos! Euro Splendor has been to Naples for 2 events. In my first video, I was at Scubizzo Liberato covering UE Festival, a celebration of self-publishing and underground comics and zines. But for this installment, I braved the crowds of pop culture fanatics in the metro stations and queued outside the massive Mostra de Oltremare to check out Comic-Con Napoli. Many aspects of nerd culture had humongous dedicated exhibition halls. The most crowded area was definitely video gaming. The event was hosting several video game competitions. There were premiering games and game concepts, such as virtual reality, art inspired by video games, and vintage consoles and cartridges for sale. Cosplay enthusiasts, clubs, and professionals had a place for meeting the public. This is a reenactment of the tragic events of Raccoon City. Amateur and aspiring cartoonists were recognized. Asian culture, manga, and anime filled an entire building. If you like pop culture merchandise, any giant cons like Comic-Con Napoli are the place for you. Before we get to the comic artists, let's hear from another type of creator who is one with the Force and the Force is with her.
Sofia. And this is Spade della Forza from Italy. We make lightsaber for combat. We have so many features for our lightsabers. You can choose the hilt, the blades, the switches, the grip. These are the hilt model. We make this lightsaber by hand.
Like Jedi?
Yeah, like Jedi. We came from Rimini, a little city on the Adriatic Sea. Not all of these people know what is a lightsaber, so I have to explain. I have to say that these are lightsaber combat. Not all of these people believe these don't break if we fight. Aluminium for the hills, and I don't know what to say polycarbonato in English, but it's a plastic material so strong.
If you like games, but not so much the video variety, Comic-Con Napoli still has you covered. All manner of board games, strategy and puzzle games. You can pretend to ride a bicycle in this game. Award winners and new products from around the world made this one of the most joyous areas of the convention, in my opinion. And now onto the comic artists.
You're working as an illustrator, or?
Yeah, mainly as an illustrator, as a graphic designer as well. Now I'm trying to expand to comics as well, which is something I'm really passionate about, of course. Yeah, but mainly as an illustrator, as a painter sometimes, so I'm dealing with images, let's say. Sorry. I'm with True Moon, which is our fanzine. Basically, True Moon was born in the 80s, in 1982. All the authors, they were actually, drawing the stories back then, are now quite famous. They're basically all working for Bonelli, which is one of the... No, it is actually the biggest like comic group in Italy. Just wanted to bring back to life the old fanzine in 2000. I think it was 2017. and they try to involve all young artists as well, and I'm one of the young artists. Artists with a lot of different styles and techniques as well. So working together really helps. From basic techniques to way of telling stories. You understand how different people are using different ways to tell stories. One of the most beautiful cities I've ever seen. It's just it's amazing how it's like a Chinese, what we call a Chinese box. So basically it's a city inside the city inside the city. So everywhere you look, you can find something new and weird and colorful every day and every hour of the day. I mean, it's always a pleasure to be in such a big convention because obviously you have the chance to meet, really famous authors as well, other than, publishers and stuff, and you can share opinion with publisher and...
Saw Charlie Adler over there.
Pardon?
Saw Charlie Adler over there.
Yeah, which is from one sheet. So basically, it is actually a big one sheet. So you open it like this, and you have the first story, which is only 4 pages, and then you have the second one is an 8-page story, and then you flip it over again, and you have 2 8-page stories. It's just a slick paper, and we're actually still experimenting, so we're trying to find the best way to actually print those. It's actually quite rare. It's the number 0 of the very first fanzine back in the 80s. So this is where everything started, basically. Here we have one of the first story by Bruno Brindisi, which is now one of the main author for Bonelli and Dylan Dog. I can easily say I started, I learned how to read with comics, because my father was a huge comic fan as well, and that's how I've been introduced to reading and telling stories as well. Whoever wants to do comics, you don't really need to know how to draw. It's more about how to tell a story. So the major advice I can give is basically just read as much as you can, draw as much as you can, and talk to other people who are doing the same as much as you can. Back then in the 80s, you actually need a publisher to get things on paper to bring your stuff around. Today you don't really have excuses.
Lavoro da 5-6 anni professionalmente per il mercato americano e italiano. Per la Noise Press su The Stimulus Chronicles e per capitani italiani su Capitan Napoli. Mentre per l'America al momento sto lavorando sulla serie di Zorro. Sì, ci sono molti fumettisti napoletani che lavorano per il mercato americano. Per quello italiano, ottimi fumettisti. Sì. Io vivo in Inghilterra e voglio scendere praticamente quasi sempre qui, tornare a casa.
È ambientata nel 1909 e questo in particolare è un flip book, cioè sono 3 storie da questo lato e 3 storie dall'altro, in vita reale.
Anche dall'altro lato, il giro.
Che raccontano episodi diversi e avventure diverse successe nello stesso universo narrativo, ma contemporaneamente agli avvenimenti della serie principale.
È la prima volta che a Napoli ho un approccio diretto con i fan. Lavorando per il mercato americano ho più un rapporto virtuale con i fan che sono in America. Allora, Conan il Barbaro al primo posto, poi Wolverine e Negan di The Walking Dead come perfetto villain dei fumetti. badass guys. Yes, badass guys.
Italians are certainly great comic lovers, and that love extends to small press and self-published comic art. The small press area is where you really find a lot of storytelling innovation.
And I've studied at the Fine Arts Academy in Bologna, which is the only one in Italy who has a course about comics and illustration. And with other 4 colleagues of mine and students, I founded Collective. It's an opportunity to make experiments and don't have any limit. We make comics that don't usually fit in normal books. Luca Comics and Games, Treviso Comic Book Festival, which is one of the more interesting and more focused on alternative press. We like to change the format every time, just to try a new way to draw. And in this book, we tried to put long stories like 16, 24 pages, and also very, very short comics, like just 1-page comics.
And we are Attaccapani Press. We manage this label of comics and illustrations. Our main product is themed anthologies, newcomers and established professionals that experiment and tell good stories around the theme.
She's from Rome, I'm from Parma, and we got together in an unusual way because we met at the Bologna Children Book Fair, but we don't work in children's illustration. We don't do children.
But do not have an online store, and so this is where we get the chance to meet readers and make drawings for them on their copies, and yeah, it's really where most of our work is at.
We usually run one crowdfunding campaign every year to fund our major anthologies, and of course that is a good way to gauge the interest of the public, of course, but conventions are the real thing, and it's when you really get to talk to the people who enjoy your books. They maybe come up to you and say, oh, I read last year's books and I loved it, this is my favorite story, or that one is my favorite story, and I think it's exhilarating. I really love it.
And it's also amazing because we get to meet our authors, since we are the one editing and curating the anthologies, where sometimes there's over 20 artists collaborating on the book. It's where we get to finally show off their work to them.
You know, online it's easy to review a portfolio, so it's easier to hunt for new artists online, but meeting them at convention is great, of course. Yeah, of course. Yes. Yes, we are.
We spend most of our money on on buying other people's books.
This is Grimorio 2, the second volume of an ongoing series about paranormal situations and tropes. And our first one was about witchcraft. Our second one is about ghosts and spirits.
We have a crowdfunding campaign that we're gonna it's gonna last throughout the month of June, and it's on Sim.org, which is a sci-fi anthology based on robots and artificial intelligence, and we're really excited for it because we're gonna have some amazing big names on the lineup and some really amazing new artists as well.
and we just can't wait to make it, be real and to hold it in our hands.
Nearby the small press area, tattoo artists from all over Italy were showing off their skills on paper.
Hi, we are sbucciatinocchi, which means something like screw the knee, knee screwer, okay? We are a little collective based all around in Italy. We have many different styles and we are united by friendship. We are a rather underground collective. This is our first time in a con with so many people. Maybe the most important part in this events is like networking and trying to search for new collaboration and work with editors, with artists too.
This is my first important, not so important, auto production. It's a fantascientific, sci-fi, weird adventure of this character, some kind of galaxy protector, but really silly.
Do you have an inspiration to write about?
Yeah, I love very much Hitchhiker Guide of... come si chiama?
Guide to the Galaxy.
Sì, to the Galaxy. Okay. British humor, anyway.
We are Piao Studio.
Yes.
Where are you from? We're based in Sweden. Everything we publish is in English, and we sell all over the world.
Yeah, I actually have my own publishing company, which is my main job. But I also work with Piao because I really enjoy what they do, and I think our sensibilities complement each other really well. So I work as an editor for them. There's 3 of us. So Ulla's based in Sweden, and we have another, I guess, boss who's Patrick, who's based in the US, and I'm based in England. So it gets spread out, so we've managed to cover a lot of ground between us. Yeah, we tend to go to the shows that are focused on independent comics, and because the audience there is more invested in independent work and want to see original comics and things like that. Whereas with commercial shows, I think the audience is obviously focused more on maybe superhero comics or gaming and that kind of thing. So the independent shows are obviously like, it's a better fit for us.
Yeah.
But we like to try different things and different shows, reach new audiences hopefully.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same for every small press publisher, but I can feel like people who picked up our books really love them and are dedicated, and they often buy books from us just because they know we publish them.
Yeah.
So they will have some sort of quality to them that they enjoy.
I think the nice thing about doing shows is that a lot of your work is done from home, and a lot of the time you're kind of quite isolated and working on a computer. And even with artists, like we work with artists from all around the world, like France, Belgium, the US, the Philippines. So it's like our artists are quite international. So when you come to shows, it's a chance to like actually connect with people and see how your work is being received.
This is one of our most popular books, so this is actually a reprint of it, but we made a new design, new cover and everything, with gold foil, a biological, evolutionary science fiction comics, and she's an amazing artist.
It's ecological sci-fi.
We are going to be at LCAF and in East London at TCAF in Toronto in a few weeks. And then we have plans for, I think, at least 6 more books this year.
I discovered so many amazing new artists on my visit. But this next gentleman's work I was well familiar with. He's done books with Neil Gaiman, the Rolling Stones, John Cale, Heston Blumenthal, the stamps for the Royal Postal Service, tons of CD covers, and his accomplishments go on and on. So it was really a great honor for me to sit down with Dave McKean.
Yeah, I work full-time as an illustrator, an artist, designer, photographer, writer, composer, musician, filmmaker, director, editor. So basically anything...
A Renaissance man.
Creativo is a nice Italian word. If a project offers me the chance to learn how to do something, like direct actors or edit film or write a symphonic piece of orchestral music, fantastic. I'd love to learn to do it.
Are you doing a lot of festivals around Europe?
No, I've got a little run of festivals, Bari and Kosovo and Munich and a couple of others. But I have a book called Black Dog, which is out now in Italian, but has been out in England for a while, and French and various other countries. But it's also a performance piece. We did it at the Tate Gallery in London, and we did it at the Somme Memorial Ceremony. The book and the piece is about the First World War. It's about an English artist called Paul Nash, who's not really well known outside of England, but is very important in England. My publisher here in Italy for this book is Inchiostro, Edizioni Inchiostro, and they've been fantastically supportive. We did a lovely art book with lots of images, drawings and paintings and illustrations and all sorts of things from over the years for all kinds of projects. And then Black Dog is my new book out. They're very keen to publish here, so that's the new one. And I'm very happy with them. Hopefully we'll do some more books in the future. What I usually end up doing is signing for a few hours every day, and if anybody wants to chat, that's great. Being a typical English person, my language skills are zero, so unless they can speak a bit of English, we have to communicate with sign language. This is my second time at the festival in this location, which is not really Naples. I mean, we're in the boondocks here. I don't know where we are. But it used to be right in the town, and that was fantastic. And I always make a point of going to the town. Naples is bonkers.
I think so too.
The driving is appalling. The parking is just breaks all the known rules, including some rules of physics, I think. But it is one of those cities that has an extraordinary energy to it. Comics were my first love as a kid. I've always drawn comics. I've spent the odd year or 2 years away from comics doing other things, making a film or making theatre or doing other things, but I always end up coming back to comics. There's something about the physicality of it, the smell of it, the bounce of light off the page. I'll never tire of that. However, I think if you want to see the future of comics, or certainly a future of comics, the work that's being done online is sometimes extraordinary. And offers a whole new way of speaking directly to your audience. So you don't need a publisher, you don't need those gatekeepers. I love telling stories, and I love making images and drawing and exploring ways of telling stories, different unusual ways of telling stories. And it's a little harder to do that in film because it's very expensive. Cinema is loud and kinetic and actually moves. And you get a bunch of people in a room and they can all laugh and cry and scream at the same time. Comics actually are quite an introverted medium. You hear the voices in your head. There is no motion or movement. You have to conjure it in your own mind. I'm providing half that dialogue, and I'm imagining one other person sitting alone at home or wherever, reading my words, looking at my images, and it's a direct dialogue.
So that's a necessary part of the process, I guess.
That seems to me what it's essentially about. People love comics because of what's not there and because of what they're supplying to the experience. Maybe unlike a film, obviously people love films, but films are often very passive. You know, they give you everything. I think lots of people think of maybe the late 30s and 40s as the golden age of comics. I think this is the golden age. I've never seen more extraordinary books being published from all over the world. That's important. Lots of voices from all over the world, in every conceivable style, written in every conceivable style. Serious book publishers putting together graphic novel lines. I started 30 years ago, and honestly, it was a little easier to make a splash because there just wasn't that much around. Now, for anybody starting out, it's really tough to make an impression because there's such a lot of books out there, but it's so welcoming. The world is very much ready for your work if you're good, as in any medium. Sure. The online component is completely new since I started and has changed everything utterly. And browsing is not the same as walking into a shop being surrounded by images, typefaces, words, names, and something just catching you out of the corner of your eye and attracting you and saying, I belong to you. You know, I don't really get that experience online, and I really miss that. Well, I work with a chef.
Oh,
I work
on books?
On books and murals and packaging and actually designing the menu, because the menu at the restaurant has a narrative component to it. The restaurant is called the Fat Duck. It has 3 Michelin stars, and the chef is Heston Blumenthal.
Splendido, is that about it? Thank you once again for tuning in. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel, share my videos. All the full interviews are available on this channel. I very much enjoyed my time at the massive Comic-Con Napoli and also at the underground UE Festival in Napoli. It was very interesting to see different ways of expressing creativity side by side. So if you haven't seen that video, check that out. Always, Splendidos, stay splendid.
Yes, of course. We are big fans of Star Wars. Oh, I don't know. I like all of them. Maybe the oldest.
Our contacts here on our card, and you can look for us online and keep up to date with our books and stuff.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you can find our website on Tumblr. You can type Sbucciaginocchi, SBUCCIAGINOCCH.
Pialstudio.com. That's our website and our web shop.
The magazine and the collective is Brace in Italian, but you can read it also in English, and it's Brace, and it has his meaning.